The show starts in 3, 2, 1.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 99 of the In a League of Their Own podcast. Today, we have a very special interview for you from San Diego, California, former receiver for the USC Trojans, number 41, Chris Caulk.
There goes that man's jock strap.
Oh my God, did you see that? America's team? Yeah, right.
Oh, baby, it's a big day in sports.
There's nothing like battling it out with your teammates all season long to go win a championship.
Green Bay's got it this year.
Huge move for them. I think it's going to be a game changer.
We have a lot to talk about this busy week in the sports world. Welcome to the In a League of Their Own podcast.
The In a League of Their Own podcast is brought to you by Golf Kicks. Screw your shoes. By Canadips. And by Streamer Loot. Check out the In a League of Their Own merch line today. Welcome to the show. Let's see what Austin and Collin are diving into today.
Yeah, thanks for coming on today, man. How is it going today?
I'm good. I truly appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, it was, we're new to this podcast thing, not even a year into it, so it's an honor to have current, former athletes at any level reach out and say, hey, we love what you're doing. Let me know if you want me to come on. So it's, again, an honor to have you reach out and glad to have you here.
Yeah, I appreciate it. We're looking forward to it for a while too. Ever since I sent that out to you guys, I'm like, damn, you guys got something cool going. So I was thinking to myself, you know what? I might as well just put the flag out there and see what would happen.
Yeah, that's awesome. We really appreciate it. And so let's jump into it here. So we understand that you grew up in San Diego. How was that growing up in California and especially the San Diego area?
San Diego's cool. What got me into football was the Chargers were based out of San Diego, and seeing all those guys like LaDainian Tomlinson and Drew Brees. And it was really cool because San Diego is a really beautiful spot. I'm not there anymore. I love the city of San Diego, and I won't be living there anytime soon. But it is a beautiful place to grow up, and San Diego is an awesome place.
So obviously, sports podcasts. We'll get into kind of your college career there. Growing up, what kind of sports drew you into that competitive mindset along with football? Were there any other sports that you did growing up?
Oh yeah, primarily it was baseball, and baseball was my stuff for the entirety of my life, dude. Football is a very late development, as we'll probably get into, and as I've said on a few other shows. It didn't really start until my senior year of high school. At that point, the recruiting door for everything is pretty much firmly closed. But no, baseball was my shit the entire time. Loved it, and I still do love baseball. And I still really do love the sport and watching it, and even catching fly balls. Just playing catch is fun as hell too.
So what position did you play in baseball primarily?
So I started out as a first baseman just because I was taller than most kids, and I had better hands than most kids too. And then as I got older, and I just figured that outfield would be more fun for me. I loved Matt Kemp, who was a center fielder for the Dodgers back 2010 and 11. And I was thought to myself, I could try and really transition to play that because I was always really good at tracking fly balls and had fun catching and shagging and all that kind of stuff. So I just made that switch, and there's a lot of synergies between catching deep passes down the field and catching big time fly balls. So it ended up working out pretty damn well.
Awesome. Well, in a lot of cases, some people who do make it to the next level beyond high school, either college, professional, at any level, some of them have kind of a family line of, I guess, good genetics. So for your family, were there any, either your parents, grandparents, anybody ahead of you that ended up going to the next level, college, professional, in any sports?
Well, I wanted to say yes, but no. Yes, but no. So my dad was a really, really good tennis player. He didn't play college or pro, but he probably, had he not had some injury going into college, but he probably would have played. But when he was at USC too, and he ran the all university track meet every year he was there and won every single time. So my dad had some wheels for sure. So I definitely say that's where I got some speed. But on my mom's side, I mean, obviously my family's pretty big. My mom's like 5'8", which is taller for most girls. My dad's like 6'2". My dad's dad was like 6'5". But continuing down that road, my mom's brother, she had 3 brothers, one of which was a pro triathlete who ran Ironman like 11 or so some odd times and was like one of the best triathletes in the world at one point. And then my mom's other brother was in like, what was it, like in rowing and crew and 2-man boats and stuff like that. And I think he won the Pan Am Games, and then I think he was an alternate on the Olympic team. So I want to say like yes, as it relates to like a certain athletic bloodline, but it's not like it's typical. Like my mom was a volleyball player, my dad was a basketball player, like football player, like a USC receiver or something like that. So yes, but no. Yes, but no.
Yeah, that's a good, interesting mix. You know, triathletes are really good athletes all across the board, and then your dad's got the wheels too. So makes her a perfect position what you ended up doing later in your career. So then you said senior years, basically when football entered your life. You want to walk us through kind of how that entangled in?
Absolutely. Yeah. Basically what happened was, like I had mentioned, I was obviously baseball the whole time, but my junior year of high school, I got cut by the baseball team. And at that point I was under the impression that like, okay, I was going to start working out like religiously and started going into the aspect of being so good at baseball and so strong and so this and so that they couldn't say no to me the next year. But what ended up happening is I started seeing the football team come into the high school weight room, and I saw them like working out, and I was like, these kids aren't any better than me. If I put my mind to it, I know I could catch these balls better than these kids could. Maybe I'm faster, whatever, you know? So it kind of became competitive like that. And about a week or so, some odd later, I hit up the football coach and then persuaded him to let me come on to the team. And from that point, you know, I just kind of started playing ball and tore my ACL in my first game, which is a completely different story. But yeah, but no, that's how I got involved in football. I mean, one more thing, I don't want to be too long-winded, but I'd always loved football, and my dad was always throwing me passes when I was a kid. But that's just how I really got into football to where I am now.
So you mentioned injury, and I feel like a lot of, I mean, really anybody, any level. Austin did hockey, semi-pro outside of high school. I did a little bit of college track myself. Both of us dealt with a lot of injuries. You mentioned that ACL injury in high school. I guess from your perspective, ACL injuries are one of the most long-term things that you have to come back from. What was that process like from you? Obviously, eventually you go on to the college level. What did it take to keep that determination through high school? All right, I'm going to get past this. I'm still going to continue to play football.
That's a multifaceted answer, but the short answer is I knew what I wanted to do. I had a goal, and when I got off the operating table a year after I tore my ACL, I knew that I was going to be focused on playing at SC. And I went to 3 junior colleges in 2 years. And in order for me to keep that kind of like relentless pursuit of wanting to play at SC, I just knew that, for starters, I knew I could do it. And that's part of the reason why I couldn't let all the haters be right. You know, you catch a lot of flack from people who know they couldn't do it. So what they do is they try and take you out in the process of it, and I couldn't let them be right. And obviously I found my faith through it too. So that was another layer that I talk about, you know, and that kind of stuff. But if I'm being like just honest, like I just knew that I had something special that I could accomplish, and I'm using that kind of thing now, you know, and telling my story and hoping to inspire people through that story.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then you say you went from 3 junior colleges in 2 years, or from 3 different junior college. What was that experience like? Obviously, from people who don't understand that type of world and the process that it takes to sometimes junior colleges where your only option to get a look from a top Power 5 school, and then you have all these other kids who were at the Power 5 schools who made a mistake, whether they didn't have the grades, off the field, whatever, who get thrown into this junior college portal as well. What is that whole experience like? Did you get to play with anybody who was top of the top anywhere?
My JUCO experience was a little bit different. So right after I got surgery. I enrolled at Santa Monica, which is just a really good kind of academic junior college and leads the country in transfers like every year in LA. And I knew that my path was going to be to SC through just bridging a gap of where I was versus where I needed to be. And where I needed to be was like the levels of like Michael Pittman, who's now for the Colts, and he was playing at SC when I was there. So I needed to bridge that gap from where I was to where I needed to be. And I knew that if I decided to go play ball when I got healthy from my knee surgery, at least at JUCO, I knew that wouldn't have suited me as well as having been focused like I did, going to the gym all the time, working with receiver coaches, studying football, eating right, all that kind of stuff. Those were like integral in my development as a player and as a person. So I knew my path, so to speak. I kind of had to set the blinders on, recognize that people may be going to JUCO, trying to get looked at, guys in high school committing to the same school that I wanted to go to, and all the while getting denied by USC 3 times. So I kind of had to throw the blinders on, run my race. So that's kind of my JUCO experience.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like you said, your experience is different than a lot of people, and just a junior college, it's like Austin said, a whole different world of its own. The process of people either trying to work their way up like you did or making a mistake and getting called down. I guess to fill that gap then from your three junior colleges within a 2-year span to I'm taking that next step to USC. What was that kind of process like you were a walk on your sophomore year, so your freshman year, did you attend that at USC? I guess what's kind of that blank space in between those two?
Sure. So freshman year, full year at Santa Monica. First semester of my second year, Pasadena City College. Second semester of my second year was at Mesa in San Diego. When I got accepted to USC right after my second year of junior college. Then I got the opportunity, like, okay, I'm going to SC, and all the while I'd be looking for an in from SC, but I knew that I had to get into the school first in order to get like access to the football team, so to speak, because I knew that my body of work, which was almost non-existent, wasn't going to get me into the door. So what I had to do is I had to reach out to people at SC in the football program through begging, borrowing, and stealing just about any favor you could ask. And basically said, look, all I need is a shot. And as is listed on like at SC and through the NCAA and ESPN, I was a redshirt sophomore, but I was a junior as far as like time goes. So it was 2 full years at JUCO. Then my first year at USC is when I started playing.
Wow, that's a lot. Obviously, that must have been pretty nice, though, for you for the most part, of staying pretty localized, like in California, and not, going all over the country to multiple different places. And then you going back to how you said you had your sights set on USC, that was your goal from the time that you basically hurt your knee. Why USC? What was your main reason? Obviously, you said your dad went there. Was that a main reason why you wanted to go there as well?
I'd been a USC football nut since that was the time I was like a year. My brother's room was painted cardinal and gold, and I was Matt Leinart for Halloween. My brother was Reggie Bush. And then like every year there'd be different times, obviously, but there's like other guys like Keith Rivers or Joe McKnight you would dress up as for Halloween too, So that game where we played Texas in the Rose Bowl, I was probably like third grade, and I was devastated when we lost. I actually started crying. So as far as like USC roots go, they're deep. And I knew that I wanted to play baseball there, but when I started transitioning to football, I'm like, I want to play football at USC. And then it just became like a thing of wanting to go nowhere else, because I could have gone other places, and because I got accepted at other schools, but just for safety schools, so to speak. But I couldn't get myself to go anywhere but USC. I didn't want to. I had a goal, and I knew what I wanted to do, and I never doubted it for a second. But USC deep roots run very, very deep. So that's probably the shortest answer to your question.
That's awesome. I guess rewind like one or two sentences, you said you had gotten offers from other schools. What other schools were looking at you, and what were they kind of putting on the table to get you to go there?
It wasn't really like any athletic scholarship offers, because what I had said was when I reached out to these schools, for instance, I reached out to USD because I got accepted to USD, which is like a small school in San Diego. And I had a good law program, which I was thinking at the time, but I actually just couldn't get myself to do it, man. Like it was just, there's no way I could have fucking done it. And I praise God that I didn't. But I reached out to like Vanderbilt and all those other schools too, and basically told them like, look, I don't have a lot of film, but I'll put together like a list of like, or like a little rip reel, so to speak, of like me running routes and doing all this kind of stuff for you. But I just knew that if I'm just being interested in full disclosure, I knew I couldn't get myself to go anywhere other than USC. So like it just became not wanting to do it and knowing I had something other, no other schools offered me, but I'm sure like had I sent a rip reel, I'm sure I would have gotten some interest, but it was just USC or nothing.
Gotcha. So then take us jumping forward again here. What is it like junior year, being a part of working your way? What was the experience of, like how you said, clawing your way, basically stealing your way to get a foot in the door? Once you did get a toe in the door, what was that process like to get it open for you to end up being a part of the team?
Yeah. Basically it came down to figuring out anybody that I knew who could have some sort of relation to USC football and hitting them up and being like shameless and like, look, I just need a shot. Like what ended up happening is, and then to this one guy whom my dad knew very well and who's a friend of my dad's and whom I really, really like and admire. He's a big time Orange County guy, which is insane in California. And he knows this one coach. He sent his kids to this one big time high school, and he knows the head coach of the football team at that high school pretty well. And he goes, hey, I've got basically a son, like a nephew, so to speak, because he's very, very close to us, that wants to walk on at SC. And what he said is, look, I can get you a number for a guy in player personnel, but other than that, there's not shit I can do for you. Like, this isn't something that, like, you don't call in favors at USC like that, at least as far as football goes. So what he did is he got me the numbers of the guys in player personnel, and I just hit him up, and I texted him, and it was kind of like trading phone calls with one of the guys. And then it ended up working out the day that I was on campus for orientation, for new student orientation. I texted the guy. I'm like, hey, look, it's Chris. I tried to get in touch with you a few days ago. I'm on campus now for orientation. Can I get 20 minutes just to plead my case and see what we can do? He said, yeah, Chris, come on over. And I told him my height and weight and everything like that too. So it wasn't like a complete blind sell. Anyway, so I'm in the bathroom of the communications building across from the football place, and then just pumping out push-ups, just trying to get like juiced up just to look in there. Anyway, so I go in there and they tell me like, look, Chris, you're good, but you can try out for in the spring. And this is in August. So I'm like, all right, whatever. I don't give a shit. Like, try me out in the spring. But about a few weeks later, I get a text from another guy in player personnel. He says, Chris, you still want to walk on? I'm like, yeah, I'm still wanting to walk on. What do I need to do? And he goes, figure out all the paperwork that I'm about to send you and then get it back to me by Friday. So I get all my shit done. And then he tells me when I hand in the paperwork, he's like, all right, don't leave LA. I'm like, what the fuck? Don't leave LA? And he goes, yes, don't leave the city. Okay. I'm like, okay. About an hour later, he said, all right, dude, you're trying out today at 5:30. So, and then I'm like, all right, say less. So I just I was in my apartment at the time, just decided to like throw on my beast, just get super focused. And then time came around, ran all my routes, caught all the passes, yada, 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 and had to sit on my hands for 4 days until they told me I made it.
Wow.
That's awesome.
That's amazing. It was really a really crazy process, like especially the amount of stress that I was under for those 3 days.
So you said 4 days later you got that call. I'm sure you close your eyes. There's just a memory that you can tap into at any moment. Where were you? What was going on when you got that text? You got that call 4 days later.
Damn, man, you're gonna make me tear up. I was at a drive-through Mexican restaurant with my dad and my brother in Orange County, and my brother was going to junior college up there too, and we all met up there. We're coming back up from San Diego, and because it was Labor Day weekend actually, and we were all down in San Diego because that's where obviously originally we're from. And we drive back up to LA, and I was meeting with my brother, and I was in the back seat of my dad's car, and I get a text from Eric, who is the head guy at SC for player personnel, who like was the guy who asked for all my stuff and blah 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 blah. And he basically texts me, he goes, Chris, we finally able to come to a decision about you. And then I scanned through the text, and I was really only looking for the result. And I looked for the result, and it says, we want to welcome you to the team. And bro, I just went ape shit. Like, I got out of the car, started running up and down the drive through. Like, just everybody probably thought I was absolutely Lolo, but who cares? Like, I was like, yeah, let's go, man. Yeah. And it was really amazing.
That's like a dream come true for, especially that's where you wanted to go. You knew that's where you wanted to go. You went through all the ups and downs to get to that point, and you got to that point. So I can only imagine what that feeling is like of getting that text saying, hey, I know everything that you went through, it's been rough, but you're on the squad. Like, that's unreal.
It's amazing, dude. One of the best moments of my life for sure.
So
far, one of the best moments of my life.
So at that moment, you get welcome to the team. Is there a lot of like technicalities to take care of? Like you said, you got a bunch of paperwork that was handed to you, like, get this to me by Friday. Was there more paperwork? Was there more meetings to be had?
Oh yeah.
I guess, what was that process between you're on the team and when you first put that helmet and shoulder pads on?
That onboarding process took me about 2.5 full weeks of stuff. I had to get NCAA shit all squared away. I had to go through compliance. I had to go through all this kind of stuff, dude. And then you got to meet with different types of people. You got to get physicals. You got to get blood work. You got to do all this kind of crazy stuff. So it was a consistent stuff, and I'm consistent this pattern of stuff that I had to go through. And it took me a little bit, and I was just like so wanting to get out there and play ball again that I mean, it was stressful for sure. But comparatively, the rest of the stuff I had gone through, it was a walk in the park. But it was really, really awesome that first day where I came in, put on my helmet. It's like, Chris, is this the helmet you want? Went and saw the equipment guy, shoulder pads, gloves, all that cool stuff. So it was just, it took a little bit to get all the T's crossed and the I's dotted, but it was really, really about 2.5 weeks. Seemed like forever though.
Sure.
So then, for you being a walk-on, would you just want to briefly establish what being a walk-on is and what that really necessarily does to your eligibility and stuff like that?
Sure. Basically, a walk-on is anybody who's not on scholarship. And there's different types of walk-ons. There's like preferred walk-ons and there's like non-preferred walk-ons. I mean, you're basically grouped into the same one as walk-ons once you get there. But the preferred walk-on guys think that there's certain preferred walk-on guys who think that they should be on scholarship, no matter where you go. Some walk-ons do get scholarships, which is awesome too. But there's the basis of it is preferred is just guys who get a little bit more recruiting out of high school or out of JUCO or whatever it is. And guys who are like myself, who weren't preferred walk-ons, or guys who basically the tryout, go through all the particular steps in order to get onto the team, then did. So, and then basically what that means is that you're a guy on the team who, no matter where you go, no matter where you are in the country, you could be at a school as big as USC, one of the top 4 college football programs in history, or you could be all the way down to the smaller D1, D2. But if you're a walk-on somewhere, you're more than likely going to be on the scout team, and you're going to be given the first team defense, first team offense, a look of what the opponent's going to be running, what formations that they stay in, blah blah blah. Sorry guys, all that kind of shit. So you're kind of there to give a look in a certain degree, but if you work hard enough and you put yourself in the best position, you raise your stock, so to speak. And next thing you know, you're like, oh, you're on this type of special teams, or you're on this type of travel roster, So it just depends on what you do while you're there.
Do you ever have a day in practice where you went out there and torched the first defense and just had?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Do coaches really like, all right, maybe this kid's got something here because obviously you are going against the top. Obviously, you're doing it more for just giving them a look, but at the same time, you being yourself, you're trying to earn playing time yourself, doing the best that you can. So ultimately, you're getting the best competition, I feel like, when you are having those walk-on players going against those top guys.
Guys who give a shit is a real important one, because certain walk-ons can be like kind of laissez-faire. It's like, oh, dude, I deserve to be on this this travel roster or whatever. And you hear guys bitch about it all the fucking time when, especially guys who are like more come from the position who are like kind of more entitled. Like when they went to the small private school, they were stars there, and then they get the preferred walk-on to USC, and then they're like, oh, I deserve that, bro. It's like, no, you don't. Like, everybody at USC can play. Like, what makes you special? Like, and these guys who are playing, like, just to list off a few, Michael Pittman's playing for the Colts, Amon-Ra starting for the Lions, like, Tyler is playing for the Colts, like, Drake London is the guy who is a Y inside receiver. He's probably the best receiver in the country right now for SC. Like, these guys are all studs, dude. I could list off like 7 or 8 more guys who are in that room who either are getting playing time, who aren't getting playing time at USC, but would be starting anywhere else in the country. So like when you have a walk-on who really gives a shit and knows that their role is like, all right, I got to play my best in this scout team session to give this guy a look because that's how I'm going to level up. That's where you really get some magic as far as knowing your role, so that way the other person on the other side of the ball can do theirs to the best of their ability.
So you mentioned a lot of guys in that receiver room. As a walk-on, again, kind of how you got that opportunity is having a connection, talking to the right person. Was there somebody or multiple people who kind of struck up that connection with you or took you under their wing to kind of show you the ropes once you were there?
Yeah, because I got brought on as a tight end because one time I walked on, I was like, I'm probably right about the same weight as I was now, maybe plus or minus 5-10 pounds. I'm like 220 right now. So I was probably 215, 210, right around that area. But when I reached out to SC, I told him I was 6'3", 225. And I was 235, but then I cut it back a little bit. But the people who kind of took me under their wing were guys named Austin Appleby. He's not playing ball right now. He's still my dark horse to be an NFL great. Like he still is. He's country boy strong, was a junior college kid too, but he knew all the plays, all the formations, and he was a scout team guy too. But he looked like Thor, if I'm being completely straight with you guys. Like Google a picture of Thor and you've got Austin Appleby. And he really, really helped me with all the plays, all that kind of shit. And you've always got the other guys like Daniel Armatabebe starting at Kent State now, stud, one of the best athletes I've ever seen. So there are a couple guys in that tight end room who really helped me take me under their wing and really get the swing of things. It was awesome. And then the head coach or the receiver coach now, and then the tight end coach then was Kerry Colbert, and one of the coolest guys ever and one of my favorite coaches I've ever had.
So then let's jump to what was it like first game running out at the Coliseum?
Dude, it was electric. Just electric, bro. Like it was, I tell this story all the time, and I feel like I'm getting so redundant in telling it that it's losing its luster. But for your listeners, imagine like you're running down and you just feel like the biggest adrenaline rush you've ever had through your full body. And I actually had such a big adrenaline rush that from the time I got off the tunnel to the side I was in the other end zone praying, I actually don't remember any of it. I don't remember anything from it. Like I just remember coming to and being like, and that was remember when I coming to, but it was crazy, dude. Like there's no experience like running out of the tunnel at the Coliseum. I'll say that for sure.
That's awesome. I guess kind of going back to first memories, your couple years at USC, what was one of your most memorable, I guess, games you're a part of, moments on the field? I guess I'll leave it at your discretion. Kind of one of the moments, aside from running out of the tunnel, that stuck out to you as a USC Trojan.
Dude, there are so many. And do you mind if I list a few?
Oh, yeah, go for it.
My first game prior to running out of the tunnel and doing all that shit, I remember there's a thing called Trojan Walk. So you get off the buses up at the top of the Coliseum. And then obviously you have that big peristyle where the torch and shit is. Right up there, you walk down these big stairs, and then you go through the backside of the stadium. And next thing you know, you're walking through like the donor club, and nobody's in the Coliseum yet. The music's playing and all that stuff. But the second that I got past the goalpost and into the end zone and started touching the grass and everything like that, I started kind of breaking down. I started crying just because it was such a thing. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm really a USC player. Like it became such an amazing sense of euphoria. I'll say that, and just became so happy. I was like, oh my gosh, man. Like it was so emotional. But another awesome experience that I had in the Coliseum was anytime we have pregame, I call myself a pregame All-American because obviously as a walk-on, you don't get really a lot of playing time in games. So you're kind of just out there flexing, making one-handed snags, like showing out before the pregame in front of however many people are there. Sometimes it's packed really early. Sometimes it can be a little bit sparse, but most of the time there are people in the stands watching you, and it's lots of fun. The music's bopping right behind you, and you're catching balls, given the secret handshakes you got with the receiver coach, and those times were just unbelievable. And after the games were the best, were awesome too, because after a good win, you go up like little stairs, you see your family, and get pictures. And it was those are all 3 times. They're not specific times, but those are types of times where like those are like instances I'll never forget.
And then being on the outside here, obviously us being from Wisconsin, USC has a lot of the sports media's attention always. Snoop Dogg, other famous people make appearances at practices. At least it's what we've heard. Is that true? Have any celebrities stopped by?
Oh yeah, people are at practice all the time. Like Snoop's there. Spike Lee was there a whole bunch or a couple times. Like there's like every practice there's just somebody new. That's how it is. I mean, obviously, like you just kind of get numb to it to a certain degree. Like you see somebody, oh shit, that's Dr. Dre or whoever it is, and like just that kind of stuff. And there's so many people who stop by SC practice. It's just unreal. Like you get actors, musicians, whoever it is, you see them like, oh, that's dope. And then you run your route,
That's awesome. I guess going back into, a terminology that is thrown out there, you hear it almost in every college football conversation is red shirt, which was a tag on you at one point. I guess to kind of clear the air as far as how that process works, like do all universities have the same amount of red shirts? What happens if they don't use them? What are you limited to? Things like that within the red shirt name.
What I understand redshirting to be, I'm not sure if there's a cap on red shirts. There might be, but what I understand redshirting to be is mostly for guys who are in their first season, whether it be freshmen, transfers, whoever it is, who they don't see is going to be a immediate role player. What they'll do is they'll throw a red shirt on the guy to save their eligibility. Because I think that the new red shirt rule, I think it was under 4 games when I was at SC. You can appear in under 4 games and still be considered a red shirt. I'm not totally sure on the amount of caps or whatever that you may have, but what I do know is that it's mostly for guys, mostly freshmen who aren't going to be significant like guys in and out of the lineup every day. And they do that so that way they can save their eligibility for a 5th year.
All right, cool.
And then you can obviously, there's like red shirting for like injuries and stuff like that. And then that happens like, oh, you tear your ACL in the first game, you're a red shirt, or you do that kind of stuff, So it just depends. There are variances of it.
So then if it were to be like you're allowed 4 games under your red shirt and 3 wide receivers go down and you got to play, do you lose your red shirt then if you have to play under those circumstances?
I think if I were to, let's just use me as an example. If let's just say when I was there was Tyler, Devin, and Munir. Let's just see all 3 of those guys went down, or they obviously play different positions. So I was like 3rd string, but like if one of those or 2 of those guys went down, it was just myself and another receiver. What they would do is it wouldn't affect me unless I played in 4 other games, at least as far as I'm concerned. That's kind of the rule as I understand it to be. You have to appear in 4 games. It's not like a 4-game kind of like block where it's not the first 4 games, not the last 4 games. It's like 4 games throughout the season.
So going into one thing that's been very new, but has been controversial for a very long time in the college, really beyond college football, the whole college atmosphere is name, image, likeness. Um, I guess what's kind of your take on your time at USC, where things that, oh, if I were there now, this would have applied different to me. I would have been a different athlete in this way, had this more of an opportunity. I guess what's kind of your take on the whole name, image, likeness, and how it obviously didn't affect you because it wasn't a thing quite yet.
Yeah. So I had a take on NIL from the jump, and I'm not going to try and toot my own horn, but I was 1,000% right. my take on NIL was that the second that everybody became so like involved in every college athlete wanted to be so involved in NIL is because like you think you can make money or you think you'll get clout or whatever it was. I said it was a gold rush from the jump, and it was a bubble, and the bubble popped. And I thought to myself, like this whole time, that there's only unless you're like part of like the top 1% of student athletes, you're not going to get the huge paying deals with Nike or Gatorade or whoever it is who gives out these things and pays 10, 20 racks to these guys, or girls in certain, like there's those girls at Fresno State basketball players. I know they've got a lot of deals too. But unless you're part of that like top 1%, I don't know how much it actually applies, because a lot of people did get deals and stuff like that. And my girlfriend's still playing. She plays volleyball at UP, University of Portland, and she still does get like supplement deals and stuff like that. But which is dope and all that kind of stuff, and keep going after that kind of stuff. But as far as like everyone's involvement in NIL, it's very, very diminished since that July 1st gate opening, so to speak. So I would say that it's good. I think it's about time the NCAA allows it, but I don't know how much it actually affects every single college athlete.
Yeah, I kind of have a second part to his question. Do you think this is eventually going to dismantle the NCAA as the NCAA due to the fact that you do have these bigger schools like USC, for example? I'm sure the booster club in USC could provide umpteen amounts of money. Same with the Alabamas, the Oklahomas, those top echelon schools where they could basically, all right, all you kids, leave your scholarships at all these other schools, come here and we'll hook you up with something. Do you think that it could get to that point where the NCAA were to get dismantled, or they would have to come back on what they've done?
I don't think they're ever going to go back. I think the genie's very much out of the bottle already. But what I think that with those kind of new rule implications, there should be some sort of stipulation to it too. Like, so that way guys who are at Oklahoma or USC, Ohio State, Bama, like that way that those four, although they are already dominating year in and year out, obviously USC is like historically one of those guys, and there's been that delta, so to speak, of how USC is, and like goes up and down a lot in terms of like consistency. But what I would say as far as that's concerned is, as long as the NCAA can keep the reins on it and prevent these schools from just being complete monopolies as more than they already are, and preventing like just being able to write a check and get everybody there, that's where competition kind of goes out of college football. And it becomes a bidding war. And if there's a bidding war, then no other school, a smaller school or like a mid D1 or even a Power 5 that's not necessarily competing for a conference championship every year, like those schools would be just completely out of the question. And that would just completely destroy the fabric of competition in that, because any given Sunday, am I right? Like the NCAA will have to keep the hammer down as far as like boosters and all that kind of shit is concerned. But as far as like NIL, I think it's good. And I think the genie is very much out of the bottle though. Like they can't go back on it at this point.
Yeah, I just look at like Bryce Young, the quarterback, the true freshman quarterback for Alabama. He's got a $750,000 NIL deal that he signed and got a brand new vehicle and all this stuff that he got. And then I take a look at our, me and Colin's favorite team, the Badgers. There's no way that I don't think that they could put up the money that some of these other schools could, even though we are a consistent program until this year.
Yeah, no, that's the thing too. Like as much as I don't want to say it, you get paid for the value that you bring. You know, like as bad as it may sound as far as NIL is concerned, like if you're not, put it this way, Bryce Young's the center of every stage of every Bama game. He touches the ball almost every play, and Bama is the number one team in the country consistently, and millions of people are watching him every Saturday. I bet hundreds of thousands of people follow him on Instagram. He justifies the payment, so to speak. So when it comes to like, it's just going to be to the degree of what Wisconsin or somebody else would. They're not going to get $750,000 unless they're popping on something else, unless they're ready to win the Biletnikoff or the Heisman. You know, if there's a running back from Wisconsin, like was it Melvin Gordon went to Wisconsin?
Yep.
Yeah, Melvin Gordon. Like for instance, like I'm sure if he were at Wisconsin now in NIL deals, I'm sure he'd be getting paid left and right. You know, so it's. I mean, look, Drake London at SC, like he's probably got so many offers lined up. I don't know if he's done any. I haven't talked to Drake really. I wasn't really close with Drake when I was at SC, but no, I think you get paid for the value that you bring, and it's like it's crazy, yeah, you know, but it is something where I think the guy justifies it for sure.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm just saying, just like Bryce Young's instance, he got his $750,000 before he even took one snap.
That's crazy.
Alabama.
I think that's crazy. Yeah, I think that's crazy.
And that's what I was kind of getting to, is that I feel like the NCAA should have some sort of regulation on. It shouldn't be, that money shouldn't be used as a recruiting tool. It should be used as, and if you're that good, you should be if you're selling that many jerseys and you're doing that, great, take the money, but it shouldn't be used as a recruiting tool, because that's where I was kind of getting at.
I completely agree. I couldn't agree with you more, because like I just said, it becomes a bidding war, and people with the biggest money are going to win that war. So how do you keep it competitive if you do? You got to have some rules with it.
I guess kind of going back to, again, billions of dollars being thrown around within the college, just the football world in general, and kind of going back to NIL, kind of putting the NCAA in a tough spot. And I remember a few weeks ago, or it might have been a month or two ago now, Kirk Herbstreit talked about the possibility of an outside source kind of taking over the NCAA, starting their own organization of college football, and kind of saying, all right, all these schools come here, we're going to build our own thing. Is that something that you could see possibly happening? I mean, it's obviously it's out there, but I mean, anything that comes out of the mouth of Kirk Herbstreit makes you kind of think a little bit.
Sure. I don't know. I mean, I didn't hear him say that. And this is the first time I've ever heard about that. I mean, in theory, it's possible, sure. In practice, is it likely? I don't think so. I mean, you see situations like, I mean, I don't know how you guys are well versed in like world soccer, but like they have the Super League.
It's the champion. Yeah, it's basically the Champions League.
Exactly. I mean, yeah. So I mean, I didn't mean to cut you off, but the basis of it is all the best clubs in the world were brought together for this one Super League by the guy who was this chairman of Juventus, and within 48 hours, the entire world football like lost their shit because nobody wanted to support it. Like it was all about money, and if it's all about money, like Manchester City was out of that league within 48 hours, and I think the last person to turn off the lights, so to speak, was 3-4 days later after that. So whenever it comes to that kind of stuff, like I don't know how like attainable it actually is. I don't know a lot about it, at least as far as this new NCAA would be concerned in some sort of conspiracy theory world. I don't know much about it, but I could say it could happen. I don't know much about it. I don't know if it's likely going to happen though.
Yeah, I just looking at it from outside the box, you take the top 25 teams in the NCAA football D1, you take maybe 6 teams a year that are relatively competitive, those top teams, and then you have another, I don't know, 20 teams underneath that those teams could play competitively against each other.
Yeah.
But you never get away from that core group of 3, 4, 5, 6 teams that constantly basically run it. And at that point, those schools, it's a money-making machine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they're doing it all for the money. And that's why I feel like unless the NCAA does something before they lose control, it could be out of their hands.
Sure. No, it for sure could. One more, I mean, think about it like this too. I mean, you see upsets in college football left and right. Like, I mean, if you just created a league based off of like the best, I mean, for instance, like look at Oregon this week. They lost to Stanford. Like they lost to Stanford in overtime. Yeah, exactly. Implications. I mean, that keeps the Pac-12 competitive, so to speak. I mean, Oregon was the shot for the Pac to get into the playoffs, but you know, I mean, who cares? I mean, I'd prefer to not have anybody from the Pac go unless it's SC personally, but yeah, I mean, it keeps the Pac competitive. I mean, it'd be USC and Oregon in the Pac-12 championship game. Like, that's good. You know, I mean, SC's got a few losses. They'll come back, and who knows? It'll be a really good Pac-12 championship game.
Yeah, and then with like the NCAA as a whole, these universities have a lot more than just a football team to take care of. They have multiple different academics, multiple different sports, you know, so many different things to where if the Super League comes along and it's just football.
Yeah. It opened up Pandora's box, no doubt, to keep it short. We're putting a lot of questions in a lot of spaces where they don't necessarily need to be.
Mm-hmm.
There's some small issues the NCAA can tweak, but I don't know if restarting the system is the way to go.
And it's crazy too, thinking about just over the past, I mean, coming up on 2 years with the whole COVID situation, with a lot of schools that we got to get rid of swimming, rowing, we got to get rid of women's track so we can fund basketball and football. Like, it's crazy that the sacrifices and just like how disposable at the same time. It's nice to see the NIL that's starting to benefit these student athletes, but at the same time, how disposable they are, to where, oh, you came here on scholarship, you're one of the best of the country at this thing. Sorry, we got to get rid of your program. We got to keep football going.
That's really sad. I mean, I think that there will never be an inevitable swing back towards those kind of things, but there's always a certain amount of people that you do displace, regardless of how much you come back on the upswing for reinstating swimming at Santa Clara or whatever it was. It's sad. It's really freaking sad.
Yeah, I've actually read an article a couple days ago. There's actually a handful of colleges throughout the country that are dropping their football teams and starting hockey teams.
Really?
Due to saving fundings, all the amount of scholarships that you can save to put all that extra money back into the university.
What school?
Let me pull it up here.
Because in certain parts of the country, I'm sure that would actually work pretty well. I mean, if their football team sucks and they're not competitive every year, and hockey's like Minnesota area, you know, I mean, Great Lakes kind of shit. Like, I'm sure that they would really, really, they might benefit from it actually, on a financial level too, aside from the obvious glaring scholarships you do keep.
Yeah, it was out east. It was out east somewhere.
Yeah.
Let me find it. You can continue, Collin, while
I don't need to derail you guys, but
no, you're good. I guess kind of going back into football, one question again, as a kid, when you're throwing football, catching a football in the backyard, oh, I'm Brett Favre, I'm Drew Brees, or catching balls, I'm Jerry Rice, I'm Randy Moss. As a receiver, who would you compare yourself to or try to resemble with your game?
When I was getting to USC in that time where I was a JUCO, the guy that I watched the most was by far Julio Jones. I watched Julio left and right, man. I'll tell you what, like, I made a TikTok the other day, and I watched, or it was about 3 weeks ago, and it kind of popped off. Got like 65,000 views of my story to get to SC. And excuse me, and part of the video was like, I watched Julio Jones videos, you know, and it's like, there's he's just the man. I would say that my game, at least as far as getting to USC, I tried to emulate Julio in my route running and that kind of stuff.
I mean, it's a hell of a guy to, I guess, watch film on and try to resemble after.
I'd say so. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the best probably to do it for a long period of time. And I mean, it's kind of sad now that he's kind of banged up and a little hurt now later in his career, but he was definitely phenomenal.
Falcons Julio was untouchable. He was really good. I also watched, like I said, I watched a little bit about Edelman too, just because I liked him. He was shifty in and out of his routes. He was always so sure-handed too.
I guess coming down to a couple last questions here. Again, take this wherever you want to. One of your favorite campus stories. I know you talked a little bit about football. Is there a story you'd like to share about night out with the guys? A certain thing that happened on campus that you just like, one of those college moments that you're like, all right, as soon as I said the question, you're like, all right, this is the one I got to go with.
Oh, I know. I have one. It's not in the realm of partying because most of I was very much, I'm straight edge. I don't drink. I don't party anymore. Like, because I was kind of a big partier and big drinker prior to getting to playing football at SC. So it really isn't in that realm, so to speak. But when we were in fall camp, and fuck, I hope they don't get in trouble for this one. But I've said on another show, and I fucking cross my fingers that this doesn't get back to SC. Anyway, there's this one time where we were, let me put it this way. There's every fall camp, there's this thing called the purge. The first night and then random nights throughout it, it's defense versus offense when the whole coaching staff is like asleep or they go home or whatever it is. And you're in the dorm with your teammates and you're living with your 4 guys who are in your room, but it's offense versus defense. And when it's offense versus defense, that literally means like, offensive guy better not get caught lacking in the stairway because you're going to get your shit kicked with a bunch of books in a pillowcase. So I've seen guys I've seen Snapchat videos from defense guys like, this D block, don't come over here, and like they've got like the lock emoji in the thing and it's beating the shit out of some pillowcase full of books. And then so offense got smart at one point. And a bunch of guys, like, you have some time to go and do your shit. Like, you have like 2 hours, like, after lunch then before you got practice. So guys went back to their apartments and got airsoft guns. So the offensive guys did. So the defense, when they came up to our floor, they opened the elevators and guys were sitting there, just lit them up. And then defense was so hot and bothered about that one. They were so mad about that one. And obviously you don't shoot for like the face, you shoot for the legs and the gut and everything like that. I didn't shoot and I didn't witness the shooting, but I just remember hearing it and like, oh fuck. And just sitting in my room, just like dying laughing. That was the campus experience that I had. I didn't have much of a normal college experience because I was only in a college apartment for like a month and I moved downtown LA with my brother. So we would kind of just go from there and then drive to SC. But other than that, like, that was one of the more fun experiences that I had. You know, you go to some kind of like kickbacks with your team, but other than that was number one.
That's awesome.
So much fun, man.
Gotta love team hazing.
Dude, and the thing is too, like, there wasn't really team hazing at SC. There wasn't. Like, I was fully expecting to be just completely like shit on when I got brought on. I was completely expecting to get called up in front of the team and just get absolutely ripped apart. But the only thing that they did, and it was you had to say the special teams constitution on a plyo box in front of the whole team in the special teams meeting. They'd bring every freshman up there. I didn't have to do it, ironically, because I was a transfer, I think.
Yeah, you weren't a freshman.
No, I wasn't. So I was brought on. I didn't have to do it. You got to learn the special teams constitution within 24 hours. And there's never any written special teams constitution that the coaches give you. It's all, you got to get it from your teammates. And it's kind of a trust building thing. And the coach who did it when I was there was Coach Baxter. I like Coach Baxter, but it was cool. I mean, it was dope. I mean, if you don't get it right, people are crumpling up papers and throwing them at you in front of everybody. It was hilarious.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I guess the last question I have, and I'll throw over to Austin before we let you go here. You mentioned growing up in the San Diego area, being a Chargers fan. Even now, are you still a Chargers fan now that they're back in LA, or is there another team that you follow more closely?
Oh shit! Sorry guys, that was my mom. She doesn't know I'm on with you guys right now. Anyway, I got to figure out a do not disturb setting for my laptop. Anyway, The short answer is no, because I really don't have an affiliation NFL team right now. What I do is I kind of base it off of game by game, and it sounds kind of cringy, but whatever team one of my friends is playing on. For instance, if the Colts are playing the Seahawks, I'm going to root for the Colts because Michael plays for the Colts. If the Dolphins are playing against the Bengals, I'm going to root for the Dolphins because my friend Austin plays for the Dolphins. Or like that kind of stuff. It may sound kind of lame or whatever, but if I have some sort of more affiliation to a particular team, I'm going to root for them over another team. And I do love just watching football. I do. But if it comes down to it, I'm rooting for one of the teams that one of my guys is on for sure.
Sounds good. I got two quick questions here.
Sure.
Kind of both hot takes here. Rams or Chargers first?
Okay. Rams are hot. I'm going to take the Rams, but I like the Chargers more.
Okay. And then second, do you think one of the LA teams ends up in the Super Bowl in LA this season?
That'd be the goal for every LA native. I'll tell you that for sure. But that's a really good question.
Because they're both good.
They're both good. They're both good. If I were to say one over the other, I'd take the Rams over the Chargers just because I think that the Rams are – I do say that I like Stafford. I really do like Stafford. I don't think he's had that much playing – had that much playing fun. How much that – oh, my gosh. What the heck? had that much fun playing football in a really long time. So, I mean, he looks joyous as hell when he's playing out there. And I think that the Rams are nasty when they get their flow. I think the Chargers can be a dangerous team too. If I'm going to pick one, I'm going to pick the Rams to go to the Super Bowl in LA. That'd be my hot take.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for coming on, man. This was a pleasure having you on, getting to learn about your story, have some laughs, all that good stuff.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me. Thank you guys for having me. And I don't want to be the shameless plug, but I have to. I just started work. I should be wearing it right now, but they didn't send it to me in time. But Vori, really awesome clothing company. They make really dope shorts, really dope shirts. I'm not a brand ambassador. I think that's kind of lame in my opinion, but I do like wearing the hats. I do like wearing the shirts, but yeah, Vori's dope. Go check them out.
Vori, how do you spell that?
Vouri.
Vouri. Sounds good.
Yeah.
We'll have to check it out ourselves.
There's the plug, everyone.
Go check. All right. Thanks. I really appreciate you guys having me on. I really do.
Yeah, thank you and have a good one.